Hello everybody. This video is not just for trumpet players. If you're interested in jazz, this video is for you. So anybody who is interested in jazz, we're going to talk today about what I call the 5 areas of study. So let me establish first, because this is my first jazz instructional video on my channel so far. I'm actually pretty well known for my jazz, not just as a player, but also as a teacher. Some of my ex-students are actually considered today, widely regarded, as some of the best jazz players in the world for their age, in their age group. So this is not just some passing fancy for me. I actually do have experience teaching jazz. I've been teaching since 1980. I've been teaching jazz since a little bit later than that. And oh, by the way, when we say jazz, we're talking about jazz improvisation. Anybody can learn to play in a jazz band. We're talking about the improvisation side of that. The improvisation is a lifelong pursuit. Okay, but learning how to play in the jazz style, that's something that's actually very easy to learn as long as you have the right attitude. There are some people who have the wrong sort of condescending attitude, but we won't go there today. All right, so when it comes to teaching jazz improvisation, after many years for myself of struggling with one school of thought over the next school of thought, you know, there's people who believe that the answer to being able to be a great jazz player is that you learn all these scales and you put this scale there and you do that scale there, and then you're looking at patterns and all that stuff. And, you know, I did all that and it didn't help me. And then there's the people who are from, this is the first one I went through, is the whole just play approach. That's what I call it, just play. You ask them questions and I say, shut up, just play. Right? And over years and years and years of playing the same tunes, you learn to feel out those parts of the song that need to be a little bit different. Then there's the people who think that transcriptions are really the only way to learn how to play jazz. You transcribe and you transcribe, and then all those transcriptions, they kind of just like, it's like osmosis, jazz osmosis, that just kind of, you get all that jazz language just comes on you because you did so many transcriptions. And there's, oh, and then there's another one about just learning the chord progressions. That's the key, is learning the chord progressions, and you do it with this way and you do it that way. And I tried just about all of these. And none of them actually gave the results I was looking for. And you know what I decided? Instead of rejecting them, I embraced all of them. So basically, these 5 different areas are really 5 different schools of thought. 5 different jazz improvisation schools that I believe you should actually be doing all of them. So the guys who say it's all scales and all that stuff, they're not wrong. There's benefit for doing all those scales. And the guys that say you should be doing transcriptions, they're not wrong either. So here's my 5 areas of study. 1, listening. And by the way, we're going to do, this is just an introductory video. We're going to do separate videos for each one of these areas. So there's going to be 5 more videos about this idea in the near future. But right now, we're going to just give you an introduction. The first area is listening. And listening can include just listening to music, right? Listening to the jazz players that you want to listen to. But it can also include doing transcriptions. I put transcriptions in the listening category because the ultimate listening, the pinnacle of listening, jazz listening, is when you can listen to what they're doing and play it back. So yes, I put that in the listening category. The second area is the technique area. And that's where your scales come in. Now, the way I approach scales is extremely different from other jazz players who do the scale stuff. But we're going to talk about that in the other video. I will tell you this, technique is not just scales, it's also arpeggios, and it's also chromatic patterns. And you really need a combination of those three. All right? And when we say scales, we're not talking about do, re, mi scales. We're talking about doing the scales in a variety of different patterns. If you can't do patterns on the scale, then the scale is useless for you in the context of jazz improvisation. And the same thing is true for arpeggios and stuff like that. So the third category, the third area of study, is what I used to call it idiomatic expressions. Today, I just call it the jazz language. And that is probably the most important video that we're going to have in the near future, talking about the jazz language, because there's a lot of confusion about that. And I'm going to share with you what I think the jazz language is. I read an article recently about this guy who says, well, it is the jazz language. I don't see jazz language. It's not the scales we play, other music uses that scale. It's not the rhythms we play, and he went through this long list of what the language is not. But he entirely missed what I think what the language is. And that video, I want you to keep your eye open for that video when it comes out, because I think it's very eye-opening for those people who don't believe there is such a language. There is material, and when you see that video, your eyes will be open, and you will say, "Oh, yes, I see it now." Okay, but for now, we're just introducing you to this idea. But I want you to keep your eye open for that video at least. It's a very important video, only because it's not, to my knowledge, it's not being taught that way. Okay, so I said listening, technique, language. The fourth area of study is really learning tunes. And if you think about it, if you don't know any tunes, you could have all of the other four areas down. But without the tunes, you've got no packaging. You might be a great improviser, but without the packaging, you have no way to sell it. So you need tunes. And in fact, it's widely regarded that you should have at least 300 tunes memorized. I stopped counting at 1,000. Now, when I say 1,000, I'm talking about all the tunes I know, not just the jazz stuff. But I do have at least 1,000 tunes memorized in my noggin. Okay? And so now, when we talk about learning tunes, that has to include learning the head and learning the changes. And I have a very specific way that I teach learning changes, and we'll talk about that in that video. And then number 5 is the art of improvisation. When I first started these areas of study, there used to be 4, and 4 and 5 were merged into 1, and the more I taught it this way, the more I realized the art of improv needs to be its own separate study. Because what we do to be better at improvisation has nothing to do with scales. It has nothing to do with the language. It has nothing to do with technique or listening. None of that. There's a certain mindset that goes with improvisation that has to be differentiated from the rest of what we do. So, and we'll have another video on that as well. So, that's the 5 areas of study. I'll give it to you one more time. You have listening, you have technique, you have the language, you have the learning tunes, And then last but not least, you have the art of improvisation. This used to be a page on my website. I think I took it down, and you should have seen how many people were upset about that. But I had to restructure my website, and there was no place for all of this. So I'm kind of glad that I'm doing a video about it now. I will revisit those old pages so that it will help me put all of the other videos that come after this. 5 new videos after this. I can't promise when they'll come out, but they'll be at least within the next 2 months. But yes, those are the 5 areas of study. If you have any questions, comments, you can leave them below. To guarantee that you get the other videos, you might want to subscribe. And if you like this video, please push like. And other than that, that's what I have for you today. I'll see you on the next video, and God bless you.